and welcome back to another episode of the Daily-O. I'm Alex Tusky. Let's get into our show. OSU has announced its official search for a new OSU president to replace Burns Hargis. Hargis announced that he would be retiring in July of 2021. There were 37 people chosen to be on the presidential search committee. The group is made up of faculty, staff, students, alumni, community members, and regents. Rick Davis, chair of the OSU A&M Board of Regents, said, quote, "We have brought together OSU campus and community stakeholders from inside and outside our university to identify a diverse and impressive pool of candidates to recommend for the presidency of our great land-grant institution," end quote. The committee's first task is to create a profile position. This will outline the qualities and characteristics sought in the next OSU president. They have a goal of completing their search by the end of the academic year on June 30th, 2021. To stay updated on the presidential search, you can go to presidentsearch.okstate.edu, where you can stay informed on the search as well as offer ideas and input. As COVID-19 cases surge across most of the U.S., many teachers are stressed and fearful about continuing to work during the pandemic. Health and education experts are weighing the options of closing schools and returning to virtual learning for the winter. Here's more on that story for you now.
The first day was kind of like, oh, this is exciting, like I'm back with kids again, I love seeing them face to face, but by the second day, it was pretty clear that this was very different.
2 days after Houston Public Schools opened for in-person learning last month, Naseeb Gill, a 5th grade language arts teacher, decided she had had enough.
The scariest part is you have no idea what you're walking into. I could be putting my students at risk. I could be putting my family members at risk.
She's one of the dozens of Houston public school teachers asking for a different approach.
I just had a teacher today talk to me and say, I had never thought I would say this, but we need to go back to virtual.
Protesting the COVID-19 protocols that leave them feeling unsafe.
Yes, they have masks on, but I'm walking into a room where I actually don't really know what I'm breathing in. A lot of our schools, they're very old, and their HVAC and their AC units are very, very old.
Gill School, along with at least 17 other Houston public schools, were temporarily closed shortly after reopening. Today, the district is reporting no school closures, though its dashboard lists over 100 active COVID-19 cases among students and staff as of Thursday. Across the country, teachers are expressing their anxiety over what they view as an unclear and inconsistent approach to safely reopening schools. This high school teacher in Boston tweeting last month her concerns about proper ventilation.
When you're put in the situation where you don't know what the true risks are, it kind of just wears on you and it breaks you down.
Some teachers are even contemplating leaving the field altogether.
Every day I'm thinking maybe I should just move on to something else, but you don't, because you know that if you left those students that you would just potentially be like another person who left them.
It was a highly polarized issue leading up to last week's election.
The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools.
All you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. Come on.
It became a political act going back to school.
Joseph Allen is the director of the Healthy Buildings program at Harvard University's Chan School of Public Health.
Once we talk about the science, it takes away some of that anxiety. That's why these controls make sense. Masking, ventilation, filtration, distancing.
While some early data appears to show that schools are not the super spreaders many feared, experts say a lack of a federal tracking system has made it more difficult to monitor spread within districts, a point that current Education Secretary Betsy DeVos refutes.
I'm not sure there's a role for the Department of Education to compile and conduct that research.
If my Secretary of Education is saying it's not her job, nor the federal government's job, and then sometimes the local government's like, well, it's not really our job, it's the district's job, and the district's going, well, we're going to put it on the schools, and then inevitably it gets put on you.
it's the Department of Education. That's their role. We need a strong federal response to start compiling this information.
Wear a mask.
President-elect Biden has promised to give schools clear, consistent, effective national guidelines for reopening safely.
Is there time now, as the winter months are approaching, to course correct?
No question. There's always something you can do. But the single most important measure is an easy one, and that's universal masking.
In response to a CNN request for a statement, an HISD official wrote, "Face-to-face instruction will continue to occur with safety measures in place in accordance with guidelines provided by the CDC, state and local health authorities. The health, safety, and well-being of our students and staff remains our top priority as we work to meet the educational needs of all families in the district." Now, many school district officials that I've spoken with across the country say that they are frustrated by the lack of a national plan and national guidelines. This is something that the Biden administration promises to prioritize. Bianca Rodriguez, CNN, New York.
It is currently unclear how next semester's classes will look with a new presidential administration, but we will keep you updated. Up next, Dylan Walker gets us caught up with entertainment news.
Hi everyone, happy Friday. I hope you guys had a great week and a great Friday. I'm sure you're all super excited to hear about what exciting things happened this week, so I won't keep you waiting. The Country Music Awards took place this past Thursday. Although it was a little bit different of a setting, it still remained exciting and iconic. Eric Church took home the title of Entertainer of the Year, Luke Combs won Album of the Year, and Maren Morris took the crown and claimed the title of Female Vocalist of the Year, Single of the Year, and Song of the Year. Billie Eilish just released her recent music video for her new single, Therefore I Am. This self-directed video took place in a deserted shopping mall and was released yesterday morning. Therefore I Am is just one single from her upcoming album put together during her quarantine experience, showcasing this prolific artist's response to the 2020 presidential election and more. Matthew Perry announced that the legendary Friends cast is coming back in March 2021 to film their highly anticipated reunion episode. Although it's a year late, it's on track to be a reality. HBO is finalizing plans for the next year and is targeting March for filming. Pepsi announced its 2021 Super Bowl halftime performer, The Weeknd. This past Thursday, Pepsi, NFL, and Rock Nation announced this three-time Grammy Award winner will headline the performance at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. The beloved Jeopardy host Alex Trebek unfortunately passed away at 80 years old after his pancreatic cancer diagnosis. It all took place this past Sunday. He was surrounded by his loving family and friends and passed in peace. This game show host celebrated 36 years with America's favorite quiz show and reflected on the time in his memoir, The Answer Is Reflections on My Life. Finally, I would like to take the time to wish Leonardo DiCaprio a very, very happy 46th birthday. That's all the tea I have for you today, folks. I hope you guys had a great day, and I can't wait to come back next week with any more entertainment news. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Dylan. Be sure to tune in next week for more. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, Josh will give us the weather. For the Daily O, I'm Alex Dusky.
And welcome back. I'm Joshua Weisel here in the Ocala Storm Studios getting to our weather headlines. Starting with this evening and tonight, we're going to be talking about, oh, and if one of you can go back, I apologize for the issues with the clicker again. There we go. We have some rain chances tonight across the area, but for now, we're going to see those beautiful partly sunny skies continuing for at least the next hour or so. But later on this evening, we could see those rain chances start to go up, especially as we head deeper into the evening. As you can see, 40% chance of rain by about 7 p.m., and then that will continue at least into the overnight hours. Temperatures will still be lower towards the 50s, and then we will continue to dip down into the mid-40s roughly later on tonight as well. All right, so taking a quick look at tomorrow afternoon, again, mild conditions and a high of 73 across Stillwater, winds out of the west-southwest. We're going to see some partly cloudy to partly sunny skies tomorrow as well. It'll be a mild day across the area. There will be a chance for some thunderstorms in the eastern parts of the state. I'll get to that here in just a second. But we're going to take a look at Sunday afternoon as well. There we go. As you can see, we're going to see clear skies on Sunday. So Sunday will be a beautiful day across Stillwater. High of 60 both here in Stillwater and in Oklahoma City. And we're going to see generally highs in the mid to upper 50s across most of the state as well. All right, so let's take a quick look real quick at the Allergy Index. And like the other day when I told you it was at a 0 for all pollutants, that's the same case for today as well. No pollutants in the atmosphere, so that's a good thing for anyone who suffers from allergies like myself. So again, we're seeing 0 on all of the pollutants. All right, so this is the outlook for today. Again, we're not even anywhere on the 1 out of 5 scale. We're just at general thunderstorms across the Stillwater area, Oklahoma City, Stillwater. This is the chance for some general thunderstorms this evening and tonight. The reason I'm saying this is I'm about to show you what tomorrow's outlook is, and if you have any plans to travel east, if you have any weekend plans to go home for northern Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, and even parts of Missouri, there is a potential that we could see some severe storms in the eastern parts of the state. So if you're going to be traveling tomorrow into those areas, just make sure that you stay weather alert and have a way to receive warnings if they are issued. This isn't for the Stillwater area, just to be clear, but if you're traveling east tomorrow, there is a potential for some storms that could be severe. We're looking at a low threat for some isolated tornadoes, some hail, and maybe some gusty winds, especially in those areas that you see that yellow. That is the slight 2 out of 5 risk that we're taking a look at. So if you have any plans to travel east for the weekend or to go home if you're in northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, and eastern Oklahoma, just keep that in mind. All right, so moving on, here's my 7-day forecast, and as I said, the rain chances this evening will continue to go up. We'll see probably about 40 to 50% chance of showers and storms across the area tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to see a little bit of cloud coverage again, but it will eventually go away as we have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all the way through Thursday, beautiful conditions. I'll step out of the way real quick. We're going to see some lows in the 30s come Sunday through Tuesday, not quite at freezing, but it will be cold. Beautiful conditions otherwise with mostly sunny skies. And then we will start to warm back up as we head later into the week. Highs around 70 and 72 Wednesday and Thursday. So overall, it will be a beautiful week across Stillwater coming up for the next 7 days. Remember, we have those rain chances later tonight. And if you're traveling east for the weekend to go home, make sure that you have a way to receive warnings just because we have that threat for severe weather out east. Otherwise, stay tuned for sports coming up right after this.
Welcome back to the Daily O. I'm Gabby Spring, and let's get into sports. The Oklahoma State football team is on a bye week this week, but next week it will be Bedlam in Norman. Reporter Cameron Bloom has the preview of Bedlam and the rest of the football schedule.
This gives them a full 2 weeks to prepare for the Sooners when they travel to Norman. The Sooners are ranked at number 18 and have been on a hot streak after beating Texas Tech 62-28 and Kansas 62-9. After the Sooners, the Cowboys will have their final home game of the season as they host Texas Tech in Boone Pickens over Thanksgiving weekend. The 2-5 Red Raiders are hoping to give some life into their program with an upset over the Cowboys. After the Cowboys host the Raiders, the Cowboys will travel to Fort Worth to take on the TCU Horned Frogs on the first weekend of December. The 2-5 Frogs have taken down both Baylor and Texas in Waco and Austin. Once the game is over, the Cowboys will have a quick turnaround and will prepare to travel down to Waco to take on Baylor after their original game got postponed due to a COVID-19 outbreak inside the Baylor facility. For the Cowboys to have a chance of making the playoffs, they would need to win out and win the Big 12 championship. If OSU were to lose a single game, the odds of a Big 12 team making the playoffs are slim to none. The Cowboys and Sooners will kick off in prime time at 6:30 next Saturday. For the Daily O, I'm Cameron Bloom.
Thanks, Cameron. Bedlam this year could play a vital role in who wins the Big 12 this year. Last night, the Cowgirl soccer team wrapped up their regular season with a 1-0 Bedlam victory in Norman. In an intense rivalry match that included 4 yellow cards, OSU's Grace Yolcomb scored the lone goal in penalty kick fashion in the 62nd minute. With the win, goalkeeper Emily Plotz recorded her 4th shutout of the season. This win marks the 27th all-time over the Sooners. OSU finished their regular season 3rd in the Big 12 standings with a 6-2-1 record. TCU was crowned champion last week after their win against West Virginia. Now the Cowgirls will wait patiently until the spring, hoping for an at-large bid at the NCAA tournament. The NFL is rolling into Week 10 this Sunday. It got kicked off last night with Phillip Rivers and the Colts beating Derrick Henry and the Titans. If you had any Colts players starting in your fantasy team this week, you should be happy. But for those still searching for the perfect lineup this week, don't worry, Blake Broadhurst is back with another edition of the Fantasy Football Weekly Roundup. Check it out.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Weekly Roundup. I'm your host, Blake Broadhurst. Let's jump right into the first segment, Stardom and Bench'em. My first major start this week is Rams quarterback Jared Goff. Goff had a rough outing last game as he finished with 355 yards, a touchdown, and 4 turnovers by himself for only 10.2 points. But he's playing Seattle this week. Seattle has a struggling secondary, and their defense gives up the most points to opposing quarterbacks in the NFL. In the last 3 weeks, the Seahawks have let both Kyler Murray and Josh Allen score over 40 points, which should lead to Goff having a solid performance. My next must start this week is Saints quarterback Drew Brees. Brees is really starting to find his rhythm as he has finished with at least 22 points for 4 games in a row. Last week he picked apart the Bucs secondary, going for 222 yards for 4 touchdowns and a fumble for 22.7 points. Look for him to continue that production this weekend. My final must start goes back to Los Angeles with Rams wideout Cooper Kupp. As I mentioned earlier, the Seahawks secondary has been struggling all season long, which is good news for Kupp. Last game, Kupp had 20 balls thrown his way, and he caught 11 of them for 110 yards and 22 points. He is one of Goff's favorite targets, and I expect him to have a big week. Now it's time for the players you should probably leave on your bench this week. My first player you should bench this week is Bucs running back Ronald Jones. The Bucs have a loaded backfield when Fournette is in the lineup, and Jones always struggles when that is the case. He's only averaging 7.8 points with Fournette playing, as Fournette is making himself the feature back. Last week with Fournette in the lineup, Jones finished with only 3 rushing attempts for 9 yards for 4.8 points. My next player you should probably bench is Vikings wideout Justin Jefferson. Now that Dalvin Cook is back in the lineup, it takes a lot of throws away from Kirk Cousins, which of course means less targets for Justin Jefferson. Last week, Jefferson finished with 3 catches for 64 yards for 9.4 points. It looks like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, but Dalvin Cook is the head chef of this offense. My final player you should bench is Lions wideout Marvin Jones Jr. The Lions are squaring off against Washington, and the football team is tied for the least amount of touchdowns to wideout this season. Jones Jr. finished last week with 4 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown for 13.3 points. But I don't expect him to continue that production against this particular football team, the Washington football team, that is. Finally, it's time for the weekly waiver wire, where I tell you who people are sleeping on in the NFL today. My first major pickup is Panthers wideout Curtis Samuel. Samuel has 3 straight weeks with 14-plus points, and he isn't showing any signs of slowing down. Last week, he finished with 9 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown for 26.8 points. He is owned in 60.4% of leagues, so make sure you hop on that. I would leave Samuel on the bench for now, as the Panthers' wide receiving core is loaded with guys like Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. And of course, if you're going to pick up Curtis Samuel, you have to pick up the man throwing him the ball. That man is Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater is really making a name for himself in Carolina under new head coach Matt Rule. Rule is bringing this organization back to life with some fresh eyes on their schemes. And let me tell you how glad I am that we don't have to face Baylor with Matt Rule at the helm every year anymore. Bridgewater finished last week with 310 yards through the air for 2 touchdowns. That's good for 28.3 points. Bridgewater is only owned in 30% of leagues, so he should be pretty easy to grab in your fantasy league. My final major pickup for this week is Bears tight end Jimmy Graham. Nick Foles is doing Nick Foles things by winning games and putting up extremely average numbers. Unless we are talking about throwing to Jimmy Graham. Graham is one of Foles' favorite targets in the red zone, and Graham is having an extremely quiet but extremely effective resurgence season. Graham is currently the number 6 ranked tight end in the league based on fantasy points. Graham finished last week with 6 catches for 55 yards and a touchdown for 17.5 points. He is owned in 66.7% of leagues, so you better be quick to grab him. Well, that's all for my Fantasy Football Weekly Roundup. Tune in next Friday to see my weekly Stardom and Bench'em, as well as the weekly Waiver Wire. For the Daily O, I'm Blake Broadhurst. See you next time.
Thanks, Blake. Good picks as always. We look forward to seeing you back next week. The Masters is currently underway, and it is a tight race at the top with 4 different golfers tied at 9 under. Former OSU golfers Ricky Fowler is currently tied 4 under. Matthew Wolff is currently over 3 and projected to be cut. The Masters will be played through the weekend. Tune in Monday as we update you on the results from Augusta. The Miami Marlins have announced they have hired Kim Ng to be their new general manager. She becomes the first woman to be hired in that position in the history of baseball. She is also the highest-ranking Asian American woman in baseball. Ng has a full resume, previously serving as assistant general manager for the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Marlins CEO Hall of Famer Derek Jeter spoke about the hire, saying, quote, "Her leadership of our baseball operations team will play a major role on our path towards sustained success. Additionally, her extensive work in expanding youth baseball and softball initiatives will enhance our efforts to grow the game among our local youth as we continue to make a positive impact on the South Florida community," end quote. Ng began her career as an intern and moved up in the Chicago White Sox front office to gain her experience. She is now believed to be the first female general manager in any of the major North American sports leagues. Thanks for watching our show today. Make sure you stay updated with all things Daily O on social media at the DailyO_TV. You can also watch our show on Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV, and on Sudden Link Channel 112. We'll see you back here on Monday. For the Daily O, I'm Gabby Sprang. Have a great weekend.
Hi, I'm Will Joyce, the Mayor of Stillwater. As Mayor, it's my responsibility to help develop plans for a variety of resident needs, including roads, emergency services, and utilities. Some of those services are paid for with federal money that the government distributes to states and communities based on Census Bureau data. This is your tax money coming back to our community, but if you or your household aren't counted, we lose nearly $1,200 per person to places like Texas, Kansas, and Arkansas. So help bring that money back to local communities by filling out the 2020 census. This year, it's easy to do. You'll receive a postcard in March 2020 with a unique code for your address. Using that code, simply go online, call, or request a paper copy of the census and fill it out. I want to make sure that you and your whole household are counted in the 2020 census. It's important not just to Stillwater, but to all of Payne County.